Joseph was a young man with a very special coat. His father Jacob had given it to him. The coat had many beautiful colors. It showed how much his father loved him. Joseph's 11 brothers saw this, and they were very jealous. They did not like that Joseph was their father's favorite son. Joseph also had dreams. In his dreams, his brothers bowed down to him. When he told them about these dreams, they became even angrier. They did not want to bow down to their younger brother. Their jealousy grew bigger and bigger every single day. One day, Joseph's brothers saw him coming to them in the fields. They made a very bad plan. They decided to get rid of him. They took his beautiful, colorful coat. Then they threw him into a deep, empty pit. Later, they saw traders on their way to Egypt. The brothers sold Joseph to these traders as a slave. They went home and told their father that a wild animal had killed Joseph. They showed him the torn and bloodied coat. Jacob was so sad. He cried for his favorite son, believing he was gone forever. Joseph was taken far away to a new and strange land. In Egypt, Joseph was sold to a man named Potiphar. Potiphar was an important captain in the Pharaoh's army. Even though Joseph was a slave, he worked very hard. He was honest and good. God was with Joseph, and everything he did was successful. Potiphar saw this and trusted Joseph very much. He put Joseph in charge of his whole house and everything he owned. Joseph was no longer just a simple slave, but a respected manager. For a while, it seemed like things were getting better for Joseph in this strange new country far from his home and his family. But Joseph's good fortune did not last. Potiphar's wife told a lie about him. She said that Joseph had done something wrong. Potiphar became very angry and believed her lie. He had Joseph thrown into the king's prison. It was a dark and lonely place, but even in prison, God was still with Joseph. The prison keeper saw that Joseph was trustworthy and kind. He put Joseph in charge of all the other prisoners. Joseph helped manage the prison, and once again, he found a way to be useful and good, even in a very difficult and unfair situation. He never lost his good character. While in prison, Joseph became known for a special skill. He could understand the meaning of dreams. This was a gift from God. 2 other prisoners, the Pharaoh's chief baker and his chief cupbearer, had strange dreams one night. They were very worried because they did not know what their dreams meant. Joseph listened to their stories carefully. He told the cupbearer that his dream meant he would be freed and get his job back. He told the baker that his dream meant he would be executed. Everything happened exactly as Joseph had said it would. The cupbearer was so happy to be free and working for the Pharaoh again. Before he left the prison, Joseph had asked him for a favor. He asked the cupbearer to remember him and tell the Pharaoh about him. Joseph hoped the cupbearer would help him get out of prison, but the cupbearer forgot all about Joseph. He went back to his life in the palace and did not think about the young man who had helped him. Joseph remained in prison for 2 more long years. He had to wait patiently, not knowing if he would ever be free again. It was a long time to wait. One night, the Pharaoh, the great king of all Egypt, had 2 very strange dreams. In the first dream, he was standing by the Nile River. 7 fat, healthy cows came out of the water and started eating the grass. Then, 7 thin, sick-looking cows came out of the river. The 7 thin cows ate the 7 fat cows, but they still looked thin and sick. The dream worried the Pharaoh very much. He could not understand what it was supposed to mean, and it felt very important. He knew it was a message he needed to understand. The Pharaoh had a second dream that was just as strange. He saw a single stalk of grain grow. On it were 7 full, healthy heads of grain. Then 7 thin, withered heads of grain grew after them. The 7 thin heads of grain swallowed up the 7 good heads. The Pharaoh woke up very disturbed. He called for all his wise men and magicians. He told them his dreams, but none of them could explain their meaning. They were all confused. The great Pharaoh was growing more and more anxious because no one in his kingdom could help him. It was then that the chief cupbearer finally remembered Joseph. He remembered the young man in prison who had correctly explained his dream 2 years earlier. He felt bad for forgetting. He went to the Pharaoh and told him about Joseph. He explained that Joseph had a special gift for understanding dreams. The Pharaoh was desperate for an answer. He immediately sent his guards to the prison. They brought Joseph out, gave him a shave and clean clothes, and took him to stand before the most powerful man in Egypt. The Pharaoh looked at Joseph and hoped this young man could help. The Pharaoh told Joseph all about his 2 dreams. He described the 7 fat cows being eaten by the 7 thin cows. He described the 7 healthy heads of grain being swallowed by the 7 thin heads. Joseph listened very carefully. When the Pharaoh finished, Joseph did not take credit for himself. He told the Pharaoh, "The dreams are one and the same. God is showing you what he is about to do." Joseph explained that the 7 fat cows and the 7 healthy heads of grain represented 7 years of great plenty. There would be lots of food all over Egypt. Then Joseph explained the scary part of the dream. The 7 thin cows and the 7 withered heads of grain represented 7 years of terrible famine. A famine is a time when no food grows and people become very hungry. Joseph told the Pharaoh that after the 7 good years there would be 7 bad years. The famine would be so bad that everyone would forget the good years. The hunger would spread across the entire land of Egypt. The dream was a warning from God so that the people of Egypt could prepare for the difficult time that was coming. Joseph did not just explain the dream, he also gave the Pharaoh some very wise advice. He told the Pharaoh to find a wise and discerning man to put in charge of the land. This man should collect 1/5 of all the food grown during the 7 good years. He should store this extra food in cities all across Egypt. This stored food would be saved for the 7 years of famine. That way, when the bad years came, there would be food for everyone to eat. The people of Egypt would not starve to death. The plan was simple, but very clever. The Pharaoh was very impressed with Joseph. He and his officials thought the plan was excellent. The Pharaoh looked at Joseph and saw how wise he was. He said to his officials, "Can we find anyone like this man, one in whom is the Spirit of God?" The Pharaoh realized that Joseph was the perfect person for the job. He decided to put Joseph in charge of the entire project. He made Joseph the 2nd most powerful person in all of Egypt. He gave Joseph his own ring, fine clothes, and a gold chain. The young man who arrived in Egypt as a slave was now a great ruler. For the next 7 years, everything happened just as Joseph had said. The land produced so much food. It was a time of great abundance. Joseph traveled all over Egypt, overseeing the collection of grain. He stored the extra food in huge storehouses in every city. He collected so much grain that he eventually stopped trying to measure it. It was like the sand of the sea. Joseph's wise plan was working perfectly. He was preparing the entire nation for the difficult years that he knew were on their way. He worked hard and did his job well. Then the 7 good years ended, and the 7 years of famine began. No rain fell and no crops grew. There was hunger in all the other lands. But in Egypt there was food. When the Egyptian people cried out to the Pharaoh for food, he told them, "Go to Joseph and do whatever he tells you." Joseph opened the storehouses and sold grain to the people of Egypt. Soon, people from all the surrounding countries heard there was food in Egypt. They traveled there to buy grain, and Joseph's plan saved not only Egypt but many other nations as well. Joseph's story teaches us a powerful lesson about hope and perseverance. He went through many terrible things. His brothers betrayed him, he was sold as a slave, and he was put in prison for something he did not do. But Joseph never gave up hope. He kept his faith in God and always did his best, no matter where he was. In the end, what his brothers meant for evil, God used for good to save many lives. Joseph's journey shows us that even in our darkest moments, we should hold on to hope and trust that good things can still happen.